Hello and welcome to the overview of the Bohemian Clarinet, the newest addition to our Bohemian series. As you heard, as always, the Bohemian Clarinet excels in the lyrical pieces filled with emotion, whether it's sad or joyful. The Bohemian was always designed to deliver these lyrical lines in a musical way that feels immediately natural. But this instrument is also great at really bubbly lines. Let's have a listen. That was a great example of how playable in real time this instrument actually is, because I didn't force anything on. I was just playing, and as I sped up and slowed down, the correct legatos were being selected and forced on, and this is allowed through the idea of musical context, and the way we sample our Bohemian instruments is that there is always this musical phrasing in the background, and the engine simply selects the right samples at the right time for you. Right. Now let's have a look at the idea of breath. The Bohemian violin was based around bow change and bowing, while here we based it around breath and its limitations. Now, if you play something like a really long phrase, and for example, it's ending on a half legato, it will run out of breath. It will end nicely though. It actually feels very natural and organic. So we wanted to keep that, but at the same time, we wanted you as the user to decide when you want a long breath at the end, where you want the musician to retain that breath and save it for that last note, or for any note for that matter. And you simply don't overlap the nearby notes, and that's basically how you create a long breath note, but which is still a legato in our engine. So let's have a listen how it sounds when it actually ends all overlapped, the whole phrase. Right. You could feel how it sounded musical, natural, and ended nicely. But what if, as a composer, I wanted that last note to be really long and nice and have that little flow with a vibrato come in a little bit later and carry on for longer? Well, simply don't overlap the last note, and you get that. As you could hear, we've actually tyrannized our poor clarinetist here, because that last note you heard was actually recorded as part of musical context and in that interval legato, which, as you can imagine, required a lot of breath and a lot of breathing. And that's why we have the breath one and breath two. You can use it as a secondary round robin control, but a lot of our articulations have actually additional 2 round robins, so up to 4 round robins, and in some cases even more. So you still often get round robins within the breath one and breath two. At the same time, it allows you to force on a set behavior, but not that you actually have to really do much, because it's more, if you don't like something, you can avoid it using the breath one or breath two. But in this instance and this library, I actually have never had to use it yet, but we left it there as an additional control for you. Now, what I'm really excited to talk about is the extended articulations, because what we've captured here is something that's really incredible fun. It wasn't even announced that it will be in the library, so it's coming as a little bit of a bonus, but that's the flutter tongue. And it was added because you requested it. So here it comes. Let's turn the crafting on so we can blend it with the legatos, because that's what crafting does. And let's hear it. This beautiful combination of an arc where the flutter becomes naturally when it reaches its climax, and at the same time, the more instant flutter that occurs when you just force on the tongue flutter. It allows for beautiful little melodic combinations and running through some beautiful lines. But we're also really excited about sforzando because when used right, that's actually really awesome extended articulation too. Right there at the end, you heard how I used that beautiful half legato to end that phrase. I didn't want a long sustained breath. The clarinetist would have been long out of the breath. I just wanted that, wow, just that end. And that's why I love why we capture so many variations of the legato. Right. So, of course, we also have non-vibrato, which is very easy to use. You just force it like any other non-vibrato in our libraries. Personally, I'm not a big fan of using the non-vibrato too much, but for shorter notes, it can be quite useful. But I wouldn't recommend definitely ever forcing it for long sustained phrases because that ironically, you rob yourself of the beauty of the varied legatos, which have varied vibratos coming in at varied times in their musical context. Right, the next thing we of course have to look at is short notes. As you heard there, the staccato is for the longer shorter notes and the staccatissimo is for the shorter notes faster. Now, we also have slap tongue. I mean, there is no pizzicato, clearly, on the clarinet, but that's the closest you can get to one of the more like collegno, I guess. We also have double tongue and triple tongue. Double tongue and triple tongue are of course designed for really fast note repetitions or when you're playing some really fast runs. But with our library you can also play really fast legato runs without actually giving it much consideration because the Bohemian Clarinet was designed with this bubbling in mind. So let's have a listen to that. And there you just heard a really cool little thing. Because the quarter legatos and the round trill legatos are really short, they don't actually have a really long extended sustain thereafter, we automatically extend it here because that's unlikely that you would ever want to use that short end. So the half legato is left natural, but the quarter legato and runs and trills legato is being automatically extended. And this brings us to the final part of our overview, and that's the longs. Now, of course, as with all our previous libraries, we have arcs, mid-arcs, sustains, marcatos, and diminuendos. So let's hear them individually now. Of course, they're captured in multiple dynamics and breaths and round robins. Faster crescendo, flat sustain, sharp start, marcato, and diminuendo. That is one really long breath. But let's use that in context and let's turn on the crafting for this. Where you heard there, I've added a little bit of an arc where I wanted it, all connected with legato, and then I ended the phrase with a really long breath, almost on the borderline unnatural. Right, that is all for this overview. Moods and fine control and the rest will leave for another overview, but just very quickly. Improv, all around Jack of Knives. Emotive for the lyrical, slow emotional parts. Assertive, definitely for the more assertive parts, opens up with marcato. Classical, again, another Jack of Trade, but leaning more towards the less vibrato compared to improv. And then sprightly, which of course allows for really fast, insane runs. And it's just an extra mood added in there. So that finally brings us to the end of this overview, and I'll say my goodbye with a little bit of a doodle and a big thank you for taking the time to check out our Bohemian Clarinet, which I'm confident that you'll enjoy thoroughly, as much as and hopefully as much as we've enjoyed making it. So thank you very much and take care.